Does America need Christianity to be moral? Let's talk about it. This is a clip from a show called Breaking Points. In fact, actually, this is one of their branch-off shows, Counterpoints, but the channel is called Breaking Points here on YouTube. And this is Ryan and Emily. And Ryan is off to the left, and Emily is a little bit more to the right than Ryan is, or maybe a good bit more to the right than Ryan is. And they had on an author by the name of John Davidson. He wrote a book about how important Christianity is to the United States. And he starts to make the argument for that in the beginning of the video, that we need Christianity to be a moral society. He doesn't advocate for theocracy or something like that, but he says that the values of Christianity are fundamental. They're foundational to our society being and remaining moral. And so he's going to have this sparring match with Ryan Grimm here, who is not a Christian, who's not in favor of that. And it's a very fascinating conversation. So you have one guy saying, no, this country doesn't need Christianity. We can just have the morals and not the Christianity. And then the author is saying, no, we do need it. Check it out.
But why is that the case? Why can't just appreciation for civic virtue and love of country and just general morality like be enough to stitch together a people?
So that's an amazing question. Why is that not enough?
Well, general morality has to be based on something, a vision of the world, or a vision of what human beings are, right? So pagan morality, and this holds true across vast expanses of time and geography and cultures, is that if you are not part of my group, then it's my moral duty to take what you have or subjugate you for the benefit of me and my people, right? And that's what we see over and over again throughout history, the history of pagan peoples and cultures.
Right, so let me ask you about, so we've been a Christian nation for a couple hundred years. Mm-hmm. We have launched more wars than any other nation, maybe in history. Like, in the 200 plus years that we've been a country,
we've done some subjugating.
We've done some subjugating. There have been only a few years out of all of those years, even during our isolation, quote unquote, isolationist period while we were enacting a genocide, that we were not at war with other people and subjugating them. So either it's not true that Christianity allows us in a meaningful way to see others as equals and treat them as we would like to be treated, or we are just overriding that as an impulse. Like, when is this Christianity going to kick in?
Well,
that's a funny way to ask the question. When is the Christianity going to kick in? Because he says, we've done, and as she said, we've done some subjugating, we've done some immoral things. So where's the Christianity, dude? And so, because he just made the argument, subjective morality is terrible for a world, terrible for a society. And the guy says, okay, so why hasn't the Christianity stopped us from being immoral?
I want to be careful we don't mistake an ideal for history is contingent, and we're never going to attain the ideal of like human equality, right? Or a perfect realization of Christian moral ideals. The United States didn't do it. European civilization didn't do it. I don't think anyone's ever going to get it, right? But that doesn't negate the fundamental sort of philosophical and moral claims of Christianity, right? Christianity, as opposed to many other moral and religious systems, does claim an equality between people, and that's where we get things like human rights, the basis for human rights and human dignity.
So why can't you take it out? So like in a post-Christian America, why can't you say we like the ideas that came from Christianity?
Golden rules, golden.
We're taking the Christ out of it, and like we just
Christless Christianity, right, in other words, or a secular humanism, right? This is the argument that Steven Pinker or Richard Dawkins would make, right? They want the culture without the cult, but you can't have the culture without the cult, because the culture relies on the religion and the religious claims as the source of its vitality, the source of its coherence, right? Why should a people who are post-Christian retain Christian moral virtues, right? Why should I think that all men are created equal when clearly, in many ways, people are not equal? We see inequality all around us. And why shouldn't we adopt a pagan morality that says, inequality? And this is, the ancient Aristotle said this. The ancient pagans, they understood inequality means that some people are naturally slaves and some people are naturally rulers. And if you're poor, that fate has decided that you should be poor, and that's your lot. Christianity, brought a moral revolution to this pagan morality and this pagan cosmology, and posited a radically new way of understanding the world and our relations. And it launched a radical shift in human civilizations that had never before been seen. And so America is one expression of that, right? And we can have different interpretations of American history. European civilization is, of course, where we came from. But we're entering, and this is what the book argues, we're entering this new sort of unprecedented era, a post-Christian era. And my argument is we should not expect the Christian cosmology, the Christian moral virtues that organized the West for all these centuries to remain intact, cut off from the source of their vitality, right? We should expect something new. And the new thing we should expect is a resurgence of this pagan mentality, the pagan ethos, which is one that's based on force and coercion.
Where does the Christianity kick in with the immorality that we see America doing in different ways? And you might have different beliefs, opinions on that, but let's all agree that America has done some immoral things. We can agree on that. Christianity has provided a foundation. It's provided these ideals, these morals, but we have not always lived up to those ideals. We have not always lived up to those morals. People say things like, well, what about in the past, years, centuries ago, the Crusades, for example, that was Christianity. No, it wasn't. Those were not Christian ideals. They say, what about things like, and they're going to talk about it later in this video, what about things like slavery? Again, enslaving someone, viewing them as not human, that's not a Christian ideal. So just because we have acted immorally, just because we have acted evil in the past, in American history, it doesn't mean that there is a fundamental problem with Christianity. In fact, it points out that there is a problem with human beings. And thankfully, we have Christianity because it saves us from devolving into absolute total chaos and evil, the paganism that he says that we are on our way into if the society truly does become post-Christian.
I guess I'm still trying to figure out, like I was saying earlier, when does the Christianity kick in? Like if the country's founded on these Christian ideals, and the country had Christians supporting slavery, Christians supporting the ethnic cleansing of Native Americans, Christians supporting the Spanish-American War,
these were departures. I think these are departures from Christianity.
Again, he says Christians supported evil things in the past, yes, but they weren't acting in faith to Christianity. They were acting evil, and they were believing evil things.
Absolutely. Okay,
these are departures from the claims of Christianity, right?
It's sort of like true communism has never been tried.
Well,
people mock that idea when actual communists will say, "Look,
when's the communism going to kick in?"
Yeah, when's the communism? Like you say, well, the Soviet Union wasn't great, Cuba wasn't great. Well, then that wasn't real communism. But communism only had like a 200-year run. Christianity's had 2,000 years.
Right, and well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think that Christianity has produced the greatest civilization the world's ever seen, right?
Which one's that?
The one that we're sitting in right now, right?
But certainly a fair...
It is funny, even though I really disagree with Ryan. Christianity has produced the greatest civilization the world has ever seen. He goes, which one is that? Like he doesn't know what the guy is talking about. Again, America has done some things that are indefensible. I don't even need to get into what those are. The debate on that would be pointless. America has done some evil, immoral, indefensible things. America is doing some evil, immoral, indefensible things. But that doesn't mean that they are representative of the ideals, the morals of Christianity. In fact, one important thing about Christianity is this recognition that you're not going to do it perfectly, that you're not going to perfectly live up to those ideals. And that is why Jesus says you need grace. Because you're weak and you're sinful and you're flawed. And so I'll give you my grace because I know you're not going to do this perfectly. The expectation of perfection is not an expectation that God has for us in Christianity. So Ryan is basically in a situation where you can't even convince him. There's nothing you can say to convince him because he basically says, if you claim Christianity, everything that you do is representative of Christianity. And this guy's saying, no, that's not the case at all. The ideals are there, but we don't always live up to those ideals. And he goes, well, then therefore there's a problem with the ideals themselves. You just can't get any way to convince him that Christianity is not the source of the problem. It's actually people. And again, it's crazy because they're going to talk about history later on, and watch the rest of that video. It's called The Decline of Christianity in America, Breaking Points of the YouTube channel. They're going to talk about their differences and perspectives of history. But Ryan Grimm's reading of history, his view of history is so absolutely selective because Christianity highlights morality all throughout its existence in ancient and modern society, especially in the West. Here's a simple answer for Ryan Grimm's position here. When you say, well, we're in America, when does the Christianity kick in? You say that we're operating off of Christian ideals. When does that kick in? Go live in Afghanistan for a year. Go live in Syria for a year. Go live in these places and then come back and go, okay, I know where the Christianity has kicked in. Those societies are so completely different. Again, go live in Afghanistan for a year and then come back and tell me Christianity has not kicked in so many ways in the West. And one of the hallmark points of this is the point that he made at the very beginning, that the author made at the very beginning, which is, where do rights come from? They come from this Christian ideal that we are all made in the image of God, and therefore we have these rights, not rights that are given to us by government, but rights that are protected by the government. You can't ground rights, human rights, on subjective grounds. You can't do it. On a subjective basis, you can't just say, I think we should all have these human rights that cannot be taken away from us because, well, that just seems right to me. That just feels good to me. There is an objective basis that we have to have if we're going to hold people to these things. Otherwise, how can you hold someone to subjectivity? How could that even be moral? To hold someone else to something just because you think or you feel that it is right. Again, the grounding of Christianity is like no other. And when we lose that, or if we become fully post-Christian, things are going to be way worse than they are right now. But let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Does America need Christianity or not? Please let me know what you think. Could we live without Christianity and still be moral, or even be more moral without Christianity? I am really curious to hear what you think. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.